Good evening, Laura Donnelly here from Dancing with Ease Body Brain Balance, and today is 184 days of strange and interesting times. It's fall here. We're kind of having an Indian summer. Went back up to 90 and 80 degrees, but the hummingbirds left last week when it was 60 for the high. So they picked up and caught one of those north winds that was going to the south, and they rode it down south. And then the wind changed, and now we have hot days, which is kind of typical for us. But we are having some really beautiful, beautiful days and some cool nights, and it's fall, and the days are shorter, which makes me a little bit sad. And in speaking of to-do lists, there's a lot of things like to get your yard and your house ready for winter. Like we insulate the hose faucets, but things are still growing, so we didn't want to cover them up yet. Then we plant a lot of vines along the south and the west side of our house to make shade in the summer. This year we had hyacinth beans, which have beautiful bright pink flowers, purple leaves, and purple bean pods. Then when you let the pods dry, the beans inside are really dark, dark brown, almost black with a white stripe. They're really beautiful. And they make big leaves, so they make a lot of shade, and helps us keep the house cooler in the summer. But they all have to come down. We have to string the strings every spring, and then we have to pull the strings down every fall, and pile up all the leaves and everything, and clean up the yard and clean up around the house. Probably would be nice if we left the leaves piled there for the spiders, but then the spiders would come into the house. So we clean all that stuff away from the house, and then the spiders, they live somewhere else in the leaves, which I prefer. I mean, I like spiders, they're cool, but I like them outdoors. So, to-do lists and being lost in your to-do list. I don't know if you're like me. When I was young, I had really long to-do lists, and I would get 15 or 20 things done a day, and I would feel great. I might not have been paying attention to too much other things other than how much I got done, crossing those things off the list. And it felt pretty good, but sometimes it's not the most productive way to use your time. Or it wasn't the most productive way for me to use my time. Now, I got things done, but as I have moved along in my life recently, I have discovered that I actually get things done either better or a little more easily, or I even get more things done if I stay easy in my system. When my to-do list would get too long, I would start to feel pressured, and then I wouldn't think about anything except getting the things done. And if anybody got in my way, I wasn't very nice, because they were ruining my getting it done flow, which was kind of a way that I kept myself very busy and didn't pay attention to what was going on around me or inside of me. So, how can you use your to-do list to come back to yourself? Because this is what I do with Body Brain Balance, is I figure out how to use the things in my life to remind me to take good care of myself, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And the first step is to notice when I do something, even a good thing, like getting things on my to-do list done, when I do things to avoid being present. So when I am in balance, I'm not feeling anxious. I'm not feeling pressured. I don't feel like I'm going to be a bad person if I don't get my things on my to-do list done, which I used to feel if I had a day where something took like a lot of extra time that I didn't anticipate that it would take. then I would feel unproductive and I would feel not very good about myself. And so that's kind of an endless loop. So then I would put more things on my list for the next day so that I could get more done the next day, so I could make up for feeling bad yesterday, and and on and on and on. So now I notice several things. I notice if the list got too long and it's pressing on me and I feel kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get all this done. How am I going to get all this done? That's a first sign that I was avoiding something by making a list. Then, if I feel a little too virtuous when I do something on a list, I notice that and I say, so what are you not feeling virtuous about that feeling virtuous about this thing on the list is making up for? Because that's a kind of a seesaw that keeps me focused on my to-do list rather than focusing on the ease in me and the balance in me and the alignment of all of my self so that I can go forward smoothly. And when I am in aligned like that, I'm able to do all these things, like the extra things that come on into my life at harvest time, like chopping up and freezing the okra and chopping up and freezing the tomatoes and picking the tomatoes and the extra yard work I talked about. All of that just flows into my life and gets done, and it doesn't mean I don't get other things done. In the old days, if I wasn't in control of the to-do list, and that's the key piece, me in control of the list, that's how I felt secure. And when I discovered this whole work with ease, I discovered I could feel secure not being in control. I could feel secure in myself, and I was in control of my reaction to things, so that if things go the way I plan, that's great. And if things don't go the way I plan, I don't have to get all bent out of shape about it. I just have to notice and shift my plan and do something slightly different, fix things, readjust. Sometimes, maybe the things on my list weren't that important, but I just put them there so that I could cross them off, so that I could feel better about myself because I was feeling bad about myself, about something else. Once I discovered all this, my to-do list got a lot shorter, which was really great. And I was able to use my to-do list and my desire to make a to-do list as points of reference to check in with what was going on. Was I feeling out of control? And so that in an attempt to feel in control, I make a to-do list. Okay, that's cool. But if I was feeling out of control, why was I feeling out of control? And I've talked about this before, is most of the things that unbalance our life are things beyond our control. If I can recognize what's beyond my control, do my best to keep my house secure and safe and clean within the things that are beyond my control, then I don't make up extra work for myself and create systems that make me feel in control. Now, this is a little bit hard because who wants to not be in control? Who wants to admit that they don't have a huge amount of control? But in reality, I used to spend a lot of time being worried about how am I going to fix this? How am I going to change that? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? For things that were not my responsibility and that were not my job to fix, and were probably not anything I could fix in the first place. So now when I feel that feeling, if I go back from that feeling and come into myself, maybe I feel sad because maybe I was thinking if I did this and I did that for my friend, I could fix this and I could fix that and things would go better in their lives. Da, 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 da. It's not my life. It's their life. And so if I come back to my own ease, I might be able to say to them, hey, I'm doing this. I'm going to the store today. Would it help you if I picked up a couple of things for you? They can say yes or no. And I have approached them in an easy and open way instead of zipping around in the outside trying to fix things so that nothing messes up in their life. We a lot of times do this with our family members. And even though we love our family members, and they are our family members, this isn't our job either. Their life is their life. Their choices are their choices. Even if their choices are not the choices I would make for myself, I do have to do this. I have to come back to myself and say, the choices I make for myself are the right choices for me. And I need to trust that the choices they make for themselves are the right choices for them at that time for the thing they need to learn. Now, maybe they don't need to learn the things I learned. The other thing that I talk to some friends about every once in a while is how something that is a big deal to me is no sweat to somebody else. Same thing, something that's no sweat to me can seem like a mountainous event to somebody else. So when I come back to myself, I scan for ease, I check how I am, I check where the ease is in my system. And I can see how I was avoiding certain things by focusing outward. And focusing on my to-do list is a way outward focused thing. And when I look at my to-do list and the order of my to-do list, and if I just look at my list, I say, oh, I have these 5 or 6 things to do, and I scan for ease, my eye automatically goes to the first one. And it might not be the first thing my mental brain would pick to do. But if I do that thing first, it's like dominoes and everything else just flows. So there is an intuitive, energetic flow, at easiness, grace in our basic systems that is wanting the best, highest good for all of us. And I don't know why, sometimes it's kind of hard to trust that. And we think if we do these things and we follow these steps and we make these lists and we cross these things off, see how this whole idea of the list and all, man, it makes me really tight. So when I go back, and I go back, by back I mean I notice that I'm focused outward and getting drawn in and attached to things beyond myself that are not within my control. That's getting off balance for me. And so then I scan for ease. I come back to myself. I come back to my center. I can take a deeper breath and I can look at things from a calmer perspective, and I can be present with the things I want to do that are on my list that I think would make my life flow better, work better, make my house nicer, whatever those things are. Come back to those things with a different energy. Not the energy of not enough, not the energy of I'm going to be bad or fail if I don't get it done. Not that built up pressure that goes on when you have 25 things on your list and you can only get through 6 or 7. And so every day the list gets compoundedly longer. That's a choice. And I love that I have a choice not to do that anymore. So if this was interesting to you and helpful at all in how you deal with your own to-do list, you could drop some comments for me, share how you use your to-do list, how it works for you, and if you are able to look at your list and scan for ease and see what comes up and see if you can create a different flow in your life for getting those things done. I would love to hear about that. So this was day 184, and tomorrow my good friend Ione is going to be visiting and sharing with us for the healing path about dream healing. I think that will be in the early to mid-afternoon. I will post a post so you can find it ahead of time. And if it is interesting to you, you can schedule that into your day. So take good care, have a nice evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.